Today we're gonna make a classic, Chicken Tetrazzini. Here are all the ingredients. Let's make it right now. All right, so there's a bunch of ingredients here, but it's a very easy dish to make. There's nothing to this. I'm gonna go over the ingredients left to right, my left to my right. I have 1 pound of spaghetti here. You can also use linguine. You can really use any pasta you like. If you wanna do it with penne or rigatoni, it's gonna be good too. It really is, because it's just essentially a baked pasta with chicken. So for the chicken, I have 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. I just stuck them on a tray and put them in the fridge overnight just to dry them out more so we could get a better sear. No need to do that if you're in a rush. You could just take them out. And if you're really in a rush, you can also use rotisserie chicken for this, or rotisserie turkey. So this is 2 pounds boneless, skinless. So for that, I would use 1.5 pounds to 1 3/4 pound of cooked rotisserie. Simple as that. We have 5 tablespoons of butter. I have 1 pound of mushrooms that I sliced. They don't have to be sliced very thin. You could even just quarter your mushrooms if you like more texture, a bigger mushroom in it. I have 4 cups of low sodium chicken stock. This is actually no sodium, so I'll probably have to end up adding a little bit of salt to it, but reduced sodium would be fine too. And the better than bouillon chicken base is perfect for this. This is 1.5 cups of heavy cream, 1/2 cup of dry white wine, 5 cloves of garlic that are minced, 1 medium onion that is diced, 1/2 cup of grated parmesan cheese, or 45 grams. That's about 1/4 cup or more of minced flat leaf Italian parsley. That's pretty much the only herb in it. A lot of the flavor is going to come from the chicken, searing the chicken, and from the dry white wine and all the cheese we have, but you can also add more herbs if you like. You could add some rosemary or thyme in here. Both of those would be great. I have 1.5 cups of shredded mozzarella. That's probably like 2 cups. Breadcrumbs, panko breadcrumbs. That's 3/4 cup, completely optional. That's gonna go on top at the end, which is gonna give it a nice texture. And then I have 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour, or 45 grams. All right, so very, very simple recipe to make. Again, first step we're gonna do is just season this chicken and sear it up. Okay, so I have the chicken here. I'm just gonna season it with salt and pepper on both sides. If it's wet at all, just pat it dry with paper towels so you get a little bit better sear when you put it in the pan. So we have 2 pounds of chicken here. I would use about 2 teaspoons of Diamond Crystal kosher salt, maybe 3. But just try to evenly distribute it. And just do the other side as well. This is a 4-quart or 5-quart Tefal jumbo cooker. Just use something that's large enough. It should be 5 quarts. Because you've got to be able to fit in all the chicken and all of our sauce. So all the liquid that I showed you before, the stock, the cream, everything. We're also going to add a little bit of pasta water in this as well. So because of that, get your pasta up to boil, and we're going to boil that pasta to 3 minutes less than what the box says. This says 10 minutes for al dente for the Checo spaghetti. So we're going to cook it to only 7 minutes. Boil it, because we're going to be baking this in the oven still, and we don't want it to become mushy. All right, so I'm on about medium heat. I'm going to put down a couple tablespoons of olive oil, just so I can sear it well, and we'll just let that get hot. Okay, so my oil's hot. I'm going to add the chicken in here. I think we'll be able to fit it all in one batch. You don't want to really crowd it because it's going to steam then instead of sear, but I think we'll be able to do it with this amount. Yeah, we're good. It'll fit. And you can even kick your heat up a little bit more if they're touching too much, which is what I'm going to do. Chicken, we'll always look over even the boneless, skinless. There's always like, they're done factory removed. There's always pieces still, like bone fragments. So I always give them a good look over. You take your hands, you could like feel through it. It doesn't really matter what brand you buy either. Like they're selling ultra high-end chicken now in the place by us, and it's still not, you know, it's just more expensive, so. All right, I just have a splash guard over here to avoid too much splashing. And I just rotated the pan a little bit. And the one in the middle is gonna be the most brown, kind of like that. But they all look pretty good. And that was about 5-6 minutes. Okay, and then we're gonna do that for about 4 minutes, just until it gets brown on the other side. Simple as that. Yeah, these look great. I'm gonna put them on a cutting board. I'm gonna let them sit, like you tent them with foil for a few minutes, wait till they're cool enough to handle, and then chop it into bite-sized pieces.
I always thought you got a better sear with stainless steel, but those look really good.
You know, you get just as good as sear on here. The issue is you don't get your 4-letter word that I don't say. Right. You don't get that really on the pan. Everything is stuck to your protein. Okay. So, no big deal. It's still going in. It's still going in it, so
yeah.
it's...
You haven't talked about that 4-letter word in a long time.
I have no tolerance for pretentious cooks in general, so I tend to just ignore them. Here are all the mushrooms. All right, so we got mushrooms in the pan. I just added them right straight to the pan with the remaining fat and oil. But here's the deal. If you're gonna use rotisserie chicken, you're not going through this step. You would just start the mushrooms right away. That would be your first step. And you can start in a dry pan with mushrooms. It doesn't matter. Your goal right now simply is just to get all of the water out of the mushrooms so they will brown up a little bit. If you take a dry pan and you do that, it's gonna happen faster. Right now, the mushrooms are just they're sponges. They're just gonna absorb all this oil. That's gonna be the first thing they do. And then when enough heat hits them, then they're gonna start releasing their water. So if you enjoy pasta recipes, and I'm sure you do, I wanna let you know about our new cookbook, Sip and Feast Family Favorites. Pasta on the cover right there. This is probably the pasta short rib ragu that made our channel discovered. And that might be the first video you ever saw by us. In this book, you will find many beautiful pasta recipes, but you will also find recipes for all the other categories. US customary and metric are included for each recipe. Right above me is the link. You can buy it from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other retailers. Over here is the QR code. If you're watching on TV, just use your phone, snap that code, you'll go right to the link. It's pinned in the comments as well, and it's in the description. If you don't like cookbooks, you just like watching our videos, buy it for a friend or family who does. Thanks. Okay, that's the initial stage now. So I just spread them out and just leave them. And now you'll start to see some water starting to come out. By the way, our son, James, the taste tester, has been talking about culinary school more lately. So if he goes there, he will be using that 4-letter word all the time on me, I suppose. It'll be great if he goes to culinary school, gets a couple of years in a restaurant, and see if he can beat me in cooking. I suspect the answer will be no. Yeah, he's been cooking more. If you've been watching our Instagram, he is starting to cook full dishes himself. He did the other day linguine with clams and shrimp with like a little bit of touch of tomato in there. It was really good. It was such a good idea, and it was his, that I'm like, I got to make a recipe for that, put it on the site, you know? So again, I'm just gonna let more water come out, get them brown. Now, you don't really have to do this for this recipe because everything's gonna bake anyway, but it just will build a tiny bit more flavor. All right, these are pretty much good enough. Okay, some of them are brown, fine. Salt and pepper right now. I'm gonna lower my heat to about medium. At this point, boil the pasta to 3 minutes less than al dente from what the box says, okay? A little bit of salt. It's crazy how you start with so many mushrooms and then you're left with this little amount. So could you use 2 pounds of mushrooms for this? Absolutely. I'm just gonna put them right here in the dish that I originally had, the sliced ones. Okay, and I'm just gonna put this right back on the heat. Turn it to medium, or a little bit less than medium. And we'll put the onion in there, and 5 tablespoons of butter. Pinch of salt on the onions to pull the water out. And we're just gonna cook the onion for about 5 minutes until it gets soft. Okay, so I have the chicken here. It's cool enough for me to handle now, for me to cut, and I'm just gonna slice it into bite-sized pieces. I'll just go like down the middle here, and then like this. Now, if you want bigger pieces, go for it. If you want really small pieces, go even smaller. And all of the juice, like chicken juices that are here on the cutting board, this is why I have a juice groove cutting board, just save it. We'll add it back into there. This is definitely not a healthy dish, okay? There's a lot of cream, a lot of fat, but a lot of good stuff, you know? And this is a good dish to feed a whole big family. This makes about 9 servings. 8 or 9 big servings. Okay, so these onions are nice and soft now. Here's that 5 cloves of minced garlic. If I said 5 tablespoons earlier, but it kind of looked about 5 tablespoons anyway, but 5 cloves. Okay, let this cook in here for a couple minutes until it gets very fragrant. Okay, so there's 1/3 cup of flour, or 45 grams. And just cook it in here for about 2 minutes until all the white is gone, until it gets maybe a little bit golden. This is gonna thicken it enough so kind of everything holds together after we bake it. 1/2 cup of dry white wine. I'm just using a $12 bottle of Sauvignon Blanc. That's normally the dry white wine I always use. And then 4 cups of low sodium or no sodium chicken stock. Okay, so I'm gonna bring this to a boil. And don't worry, all these clumps, they're just gonna go away when it comes to a boil, as long as it's cold liquid. If it's hot liquid, it would clump. So whenever a recipe just says stock or wine, it's assuming you're using cold, adding it to it. If it needed hot, you would write hot or warm. All right, my pasta water is boiling. If you had a stainless steel pan, you would have a lot of that wonderful 4-letter word on the bottom here, and then you would just scrape it like this to remove it. Cook your pasta in salted water and save at least a cup of the pasta water. Okay, so we're bringing it up to a boil. Let it boil for about 2 minutes. If you don't want to put wine in here, you say you just completely can't have it, you can add lemon juice. That's what I would do here. I think the lemon juice would go well with all these flavors here. It would give you that acidic bite that you need, which is really essential in a lot of dishes. I'm gonna lower the heat now to about medium, and I'm going to add the cream in. Okay, this is 1.5 cups of heavy cream. It's a lot of cream, I know. Want to reduce the cream, you maybe go down to about a cup, and you can add a little bit more pasta water. If you boil your pasta with very little water in the pot, so like when you're making cacio e pepe or something where you really want to emulsify a sauce, your pasta water will be starchier. It'll be thicker, it'll be more concentrated. So you can do that too, that's an option. All right, I'm just gonna bring this back to just a very low simmer. Okay, I'm gonna mix in that 1/2 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. I'm gonna mix in 2/3 of the mozzarella. Basically just making a really thick, not super thick, but a nice, flavorful cheese sauce. And I'm just gonna let it all melt, come together and melt. All right, so this is essentially our sauce. I'm gonna taste it and make sure it has enough salt. It's gonna need a lot of black pepper. I love black pepper in something like this, like a cream sauce. Okay, I'm just gonna lower it even more. All right, and taste it again. I don't think it had enough salt. I'm gonna put a good pinch of salt in there. A hefty amount of black pepper. Taste again. You really want to get this right. This is the most important thing here. So once you mix it all together, you're gonna be baking it. You want to get it right. Not too bad. Turn that off. I'm supposed to add the pasta water when I was using the cream, but just add it now. I'm gonna do about 1/2 cup. We'll do a little 8. That's good. Okay, let's mix in the mushrooms, the chicken, and the juices, the accumulated juices. See why you need a really big pan? Like, I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to fit it all in here. I think when I made it for the site, I used a different pan. I'm not sure. I think I used my big stainless, my big 14-inch stainless. Parsley. And by the way, if you do it in a pan that's big enough, like if you say you do it, I was going to do this when I made this, when I did take the pictures of it, it all fit in there. So it didn't, you don't even need to transfer it to a baking dish. You could just bake it like that. Okay, here's that spaghetti. Ooh, yeah.
Yes, it was the stainless.
It was big stainless,
Yeah.
yep. So I'm like right at the limit here. More than the limit. Don't worry if it's not super mixed right now. We're going to put it into a baking dish and we can mix it better. You can grease this a little bit if you want, or just put a drop of oil. Just wipe it around the sides. Okay, it's going to be hard to even pour this. Let's take some of it out to start. All right, so now you can probably get in there a little bit better and distribute it. If you want to get fancy, and sometimes I do, sometimes I get fancy, what I'll do, and I do this especially for pictures when I am trying to sell you on the recipe. So I will say sear up a little bit more mushrooms. Because I know they're all going to be buried, I'll save them and I'll put them on the top. And I'll save the ones that I browned the best. And it'll look better. Because we eat with our eyes a lot of times. Most of the time. I'll even like pull some of this like pasta in different directions, but you get the idea. So you can put the mozzarella first and then the breadcrumbs, or vice versa. Do not eat this dish if you're lactose intolerant. Goes without saying.
I have heard, one of our readers had asked us about like a dairy-free sauce, and I had read that cashews blended with vegetable stock make a really good dairy-free like Alfredo type of sauce.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that too.
Yeah, actually, Tony Okamoto Shapiro, who has her blog.
She has a vegan blog, vegan vegetarian.
Yeah.
Yep.
She has a recipe up there. And I actually also asked a vegan friend of mine what their thoughts were on that combination. And he said that it's like incredible.
Yeah, actually, I feel like I've had that in a restaurant one time.
You might have.
Yeah.
So that's always an option. Cashews blended with vegetable stock.
So you could just put enough. I said 3/4, but you can just put enough to like kind of coat the top like that. And then we're just going to bake this for long enough covered, and then we'll uncover it so it'll brown. And I'll tell you the exact time. 350-degree oven. I'm sorry, I didn't say that. Set your oven to 350. I should have told you that earlier. And we're going to bake it for 20 minutes covered, and we're going to bake it for another 15 to 20 minutes more uncovered, and you can broil it the last few minutes to get nice color on it. For anything like this type of thing that comes very high up on your baking dish, I always like to put a piece of parchment paper on it first. It's even more important when you're doing like a lasagna or something that has a ton of cheese at the top, but it just will prevent all sticking. I know they sell non-stick foil too, but I don't have that.
Tony's website is plant-based on a budget.
Plant-based on a budget.
Yeah, so there you can like see like
Yeah.
the proportion of cashew to vegetable stock that you use.
All right, so cover it tightly. Again, 20, and then uncover it, and then another 15, 20, and we'll broil at the end. Okay, I just broiled the last minute, maybe a little too much. Oop. No, actually, it looks good. Now, even though it looks very stiff on top, it will be very wet in the middle. If you follow the proportions here that I gave you, you can check with a toothpick just initially. Just go like this. See how it's like as I'm doing this, you're seeing like a lot of liquid in there. I hope you can see that. So for any baked pasta, you want to let it rest for 15 minutes. It's going to stay hot. It's actually going to stay hot in here for an hour and a half, okay, in a stoneware baking dish like this. And it'll come together better, and it'll be a little bit better experience. If I dig into this right this second, it's going to have that crispy part on top, but it's going to be probably a little too liquidy in the middle. So I'm going to let this sit. We'll give it time. I might actually film another video now while we're waiting. And then we'll taste test this one about an hour and a half from now, which again is totally fine. You can do the same thing with lasagna, stuffed shells, anything like that. Okay, so Tara's getting some water. She just taste tested, made a bourbon steak pasta. So this has been sitting here, because I did that video after this. This has been sitting for, I would say, over an hour. I'm going to show you. It's still very hot, like when I'm touching this, and I'm going to dig into this. Okay, now at this point, you can almost like portion it, almost like lasagna, like kind of cut a chunk of it. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So see how it's like, it just definitely settles a lot better when you let it, just let it sit for a long time. All right, that's going to be more than enough for you, I would assume, Tara?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Ooh, this looks heavy. This is like stick to your ribs.
Yeah, this is feed a family of 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like after a day of
Yeah.
raking leaves or doing strenuous physical activity.
That's right. We always provide all the nutrition info for our recipes. So I made this 8 portions, though it's more realistically, it's 9 because it's a 9 by 13. And it's still like 800 calories per person or more. So many people don't know basic nutrition. Like when you buy 454 grams of pasta, it doesn't matter the shape. It's 1 pound of pasta. It's always 1,600 calories. Always. Okay. I normally make recipes in advance, put them on the site first. We get reader feedback on the site. That allows me to know if I'm going to make a video for you here. Okay. It's a good way of doing it. And it was good. But Tara's feedback, is it the same as last time?
I like it better this time because it's sat and it's settled. I think the last time we had it, we didn't let it sit long enough. Maybe we let it sit, I don't know.
20. Yeah.
Okay. The longer it settles, I think the better it is consistency-wise. The flavor is really good. I love chicken thighs the way you sear them. Like I could eat them just plain like that. I think what I'm struggling with here is that it's so heavy. Like, and I know I just taste tested a different pasta
Yes.
before this, so like I actually just ate a plate of pasta.
Yeah.
So I'm acknowledging that I'm a little full right now, but it is really heavy. I definitely see this as being good to have like a very small portion of. I don't think I could eat much more than this. I am going to critique this in the same way that I did the other pasta. I think I would prefer this with penne or ziti or rigatoni because
Definitely easier to eat.
Yeah, I think it's easier. I happen to just prefer baked pastas with the short, like tubular shapes than the long pastas. Even like, the spaghetti pie that you have, I think it's good, which actually this kind of reminds me of it a little bit. The spaghetti pie is good, but for me, it's like a personal thing. If I'm going to have a baked pasta, I want it to be a tube shaped.
Out of posterity, I did it with spaghetti because every recipe for this is done with spaghetti.
Yeah,
so
I get that.
I do agree with Tara. Like for a baked pasta, it's just easier to eat to have a tubular one. And value that feedback. What about the flavor itself?
I think the flavor's great. I really like the breadcrumbs on top.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like you could even use more if you want. You could probably even mix them into it. Gives a good textural element, especially the panko, because it's a larger breadcrumb than your regular Italian or plain one that they sell in the store. This is after you go skiing or snowboarding.
Yeah,
you're like wiped for the day. Or if you live in the Midwest, this is when you go to like your cabin after you go hunting.
Yeah, like a potluck or something like that. I think it would be really good for. But yeah, I mean, like a very small portion is enough.
Okay, so what does it get?
For me.
What does it get?
I'm gonna give this one an 8.
An 8? Okay, that's generous. I figured you were going to do a 7 here. Very generous. Thank you. I think people appreciate your comments. They're in a different vein than James. And let us know. Give us feedback, too, about it. Be nice, though. Don't be mean to Tara, okay? Be nice.
I can handle it.
And, we want to know. Because it is sometimes it's difficult to coordinate with James, with all the after-school stuff and homework and everything like that. So, but, as always, we really appreciate you watching. We appreciate you tuning in to us. Your time is valuable. And, you could have swiped 100 Reels or TikToks in the time that you watched this video. So we get it. We get it, Taking the time to just sit here and watch this one, that's, you should be rewarded for it, I think, in this day and age. What do you say?
Yeah, I think so.
You think so? Okay. We'll see you next time.